Okay, my question is to Sausan Doctor.
What's your name?
My name is Debbie Weissman. Right before we began, I had a conversation in the hall with a friend, and my friend asked me, do you have anything positive to say about this law? And I said, of course not, and he agreed. After your talk, I see something positive, okay? Paradoxically, a subtle shift in the discourse, because up till tonight, and I've been in dialogue with Palestinians for decades, there was always an issue of Jews meant a religious identity. And so the Palestinian interlocutors preferred to say Israelis, or often they said Israelians, which to me sounds like aliens, and that's problematic in and of itself. But you used Jews tonight as an ethnic identity, as a people. And I think that could be a positive step towards mutual recognition in the sense of two states for two peoples. So if that's what this law has brought about, so that's one very small positive thing. Otherwise, I basically agree with your analysis and with much of what you said.
Thank you. There is a question then?
Is there a question?
Are there any comments to what you said regarding the two states?
No, I'm asking if there's a question in what you said,
Yeah.
or just an intervention.
The question is, has there been a shift in the use of Jews into an ethnic, national, cultural category, and not just a religious one?
So we have always been using the Jewishness component as not only as a religious, but mostly as an ethnic component. We have been doing that, and it has been as well obvious in the in different Supreme Court decisions. The issue here is that Jewishness is the Jewishness is also ethnicity and a religion. So you cannot come and make this distinction between it, rather than nationality. For us Palestinians is the nationality, even though if we have Israeli citizenship, but we call ourselves Palestinians. But then on the religious level, and ethnically we are Arabs. So basically like this, we are ethnically Arabs, nationally Palestinians, and religiously Christians, Muslims, and Druze. Even though there are fractions of the Druze that don't see themselves Arabs. So for us it's a regular term, and I think that the interpretation of the Israeli Supreme Court on what a Jewish and democratic state has been interpreted, especially when we raised arguments of discrimination. Discrimination based on what? Discrimination based on ethnicity and nationality. And this has been interpreted in light of the Jewishness component and not the light of the Israeli component. I hope I'm more clear now.
I just want to comment to my friend Sausan about something about the importance of the national law that I didn't have the time to address. But I heard your lecture, and I also read your petition to the Supreme Court. I completely disagree with you. Maybe because I'm a gossip journalist and you're a very well-respected lawyer. I think judges rule by their personal opinions. They don't care about the laws. You can see it in the United States, you can see it here. I don't think any judge in Israel will change any kind of ruling because of the national law. He will say like this and like that. We saw in the past that liberal judges give liberal verdicts, and conservative judges without the national law, they can use the phrase Israel a democratic and Jewish state to interpret it however they want. And every time you go to the Supreme Court, you can know in advance by the three judges that you get, probably will go, you know what is the outcome. And I I don't think it will change anything. You see, in the United States, Supreme Court, Israel likes to copycat what is going on in the United States Supreme Court. It's just the same point. It depends who you are. It doesn't important. It doesn't mean anything anymore about the amendments, etc. And I don't think it's the same thing about the national law. I think it's a very negative declaration, but I'm not sure it will have real consequences. But maybe I'm mistaken also about this.
Can I comment, or we should make shortly, very shortly?
We are not naive at all that the Supreme Court would accept our petition. We are not naive at all that they would accept, and maybe probably some of them would laugh when they would read these arguments because they totally don't, they wouldn't imagine that they can even think about such a framework for argument. But our moral values did not enable us not to do anything about it, because we did it, we submitted the petition because we wanted to do anything in order to challenge racism, discrimination, and apartheid. And I am very happy about your optimism, Tehila, but I don't think that when things get to the Supreme Court, it's not about what the Israeli public thinks, it's about what the Israeli Knesset thought when they delivered the basic law. And we quoted a lot of racist, Zionist quotes by different members of the Knesset, and everyone can read that in the Knesset protocols throughout all the three readings that happened about how sure a lot of Knesset members were in order to pass a law that basically will exclude anything who is not Jewish based on Jewish supremacy in order to preserve this supremacy from a racist background.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Darren. Please. Darren, then Emmanuel.
Because I had 1, 2, 3 minutes.
My question is only a short one, and I didn't understand something. I want to ask Balik about the Druze community. I didn't understand what's the difference between the Israeli patriots in the Druze community and Israeli Zionists, your A and your B. I didn't get it.
Well, I didn't say Israeli patriots, I said Palestinian patriotic. So we have the Palestinian patriotic, it's a small percentage of the Druze community that they identify as Palestinians, they are patriotic, and they, of course, Arabs, they do identify as Arabs as well. And also the Israeli Zionists, like Ayub Qarra, who consider themselves Israelis and Zionists, and then maybe Druze. They don't consider themselves Arabs.
So then it's clear. So.
That's fine. Sorry.
My question is directed to Sausan and Chaim, if he also wants to comment. Is the Supreme Court likely to rule on the constitutionality of challenging a basic law? Or do you think it will get into the essence of the law itself? Where do you think it's going to go?
I think that some conservative judges, if they will be in this case, will use it and will say that they cannot overrule basic laws. And I think most of the judges will say what they said in the Nakba law, that we need to see and what will happen. It's too early, it's too complicated, and they will leave aside the issue of the constitutional laws. Unfortunately, I needed to read a book about it, about this issue of unconstitutional constitutions. And it broke my tongue, and it was very boring. But I think most of the judges will leave it. They will leave it aside.
Okay, so I guess from your accent, I understand you can read Hebrew. Yeah, okay. So I would invite you to read our petition, which is in our website, and go to page 38, paragraph 123 onwards. By the way, for English speakers, I also invite you to check soon, in the coming week or two, we are translating our petition to the Supreme Court to English, and it's in its final editing. But why I'm referring you to our petition, because there's a huge chapter on constitutional amendments. This is a big argument, because without it, you cannot convince the judges to look at the petition. And we were also very surprised that in most of the other petitions, I think there are another 6 or 7 petitions, among them the Druze petition, that have no mention to it. And Adala is the only one that really mentions it. What this doctrine basically says is that the Supreme Court, and I'm not bringing it, it's basically has been decided by the Supreme Court in different occasions on when it will intervene in a constitutional amendment. And it will do that if the amendment, the constitutional amendment, infringes the basic democratic principles to an extent that it infringes and violates the constitutional structure of the state, which includes as well a massive violation of the core values of human rights and anti-discrimination. This is what the Supreme Court had said in previous court decisions in issues that are not related to the Jewish nation-state law. So basically what we did is that we argued all what we argued about how there will be segregation, why there is apartheid, the language issue, which I didn't really have time, because I know it means a lot, this section on the status of the Arabic language. I didn't have time to get into it. But the other part of our petition basically comes and shows why the doctrine of constitutional amendment exists here, and it obliges the Supreme Court to intervene, and based on this we hope they do.
And does precedent have counting? Is it considered?
Meanwhile, we have the criteria on when they can intervene. Until now, the Supreme Court had not canceled any constitutional amendment or article because they said that it didn't follow with these criteria. This time, we hope that, in this case, we hope that we will be able to prove why, including the issues of human rights and constitutional structure and anti-discrimination principles.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Emmanuel Shachas. I'm co-chairman of the Federation movement advocating a federation, Jewish Palestinian Federation in the land of Israel. And my question is to Tehila and to Chaim regarding the trends. You were talking about positive and negative trends. I don't detect any positive trends in the political scene. In the social scene, there are, like you said, but that's the question. Do you detect in the political scene any positive trends in the wake of the nation-state law or leading up to it? Thank you.
You asked someone that announced they're joining a list, right?
I was optimistic, that's why.
Look, regarding the Arab minority issue, I think it's only negative. In the past, it was, let's say in the 90s, this was a question if Israeli Palestinian Arabs are legitimate members of the government. And now it's a question if the Israeli minority Arabs are legitimate members of the parliament. And we will see in the upcoming 2019 elections a huge battle in the right wing. Who will be the more critic of the Arab parties, and who will bring more petitions to the Supreme Court to eliminate such kind of list or such kind of parliament member from army. And you see, but you can see it's coming. It's not coming from the parliament. I think it's coming from the people. And I don't like a public opinion service, but you can see in all kind of public arena discussions, the delegitimization of the Arab minority is huge. And by the way, you can see it in the different social movements. When you have a social movement of, let's say, gays, for gays' rights, it always will come, I'm gay, I'm serving in the army, I'm paying taxes, and I'm probably good looking. etc. So I deserve my rights. It's also a kind of way to say I'm a minority, but I'm not the Arab minority. So in the Druze issue regarding the national law, we said all the time, I don't think it will change. In the upcoming, for sure, upcoming elections, but in the near future, we see it all around the world. It's a very populist movements all around the world that sees, national minorities as a thing of as weakening societies, as stealing the society or the land from the majorities. It comes in a different version. Sometimes it's immigrants, sometimes it's people who are born here, the indigenous, like here in Israel. And on this issue, I'm very, very, very not interested.
Do you want to add to it? Is someone that announced you're joining to a specific list lately?
Two maybe optimistic sides. One, I think as someone who worked for the idea of a federation, I guess you are familiar with many new ideas that's been mentioned lately. I mean, aside of, for years it was either you are for the two-state solution in 67, lines or not, and this was it. And I think today the discourse around the solution for the conflict is becoming richer. The new ideas from different directions. I think it's a good sign. I think it's a good sign. I think there is because there were now 5 or 10 years that people said there is no point in touching it at all. I mean, we're not interested at all. And now I feel there is like coming back on at least talking about solution. That's for itself something. The second, I don't think, if you look directly on Israeli, on Jewish-Arabs relationship, I can understand why it's very hard to see something positive coming in the coming election. But I do think that maybe it will go like that, not directly, but like that. What I mean, it's a weaker, the traditional structure of the Israeli society become, the more new corporations will grow up. For example, I'm looking at Jerusalem again. Look what's happening in Jerusalem election. Okay, Jerusalem, we used to think about it as having 4 groups, ultra-Orthodox, modern Orthodox, Arabs, and seculars. And now in those elections, every group is divided. No, there is no group that's going to vote for one candidate, all of them. The Haredi group, the Ashkenazim are divided, the Haredi Mizrahi are divided, even the Chardal, it's like a subgroup within modern Orthodoxy, is divided. The seculars, obviously, and also modern Orthodox, and also in the Arab sector. First time there was a candidate who ran to be a mayor, and someone who started, I don't know if Ramadan is still, Ramadan Dabash from Tzubach is still running for municipal council. So also there that, we are not, we're against normalization, we're not going to vote, is broke and 2 subgroups. Now, I think the more subgroups we'll have, the more options for, I'm joking that at the end of the day, maybe we'll have democracy, subgroup and subgroup and subgroup. Maybe there will be a day that people will vote as individuals. That would be big. But I do think that this is a good sign, I think. I'm a stubborn optimist.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please, Bob.
First of all, I really enjoyed all your mirroring from different angles, from the way the political field worked on and the whole reflection of the stages. I really enjoyed it. Like it's a picture of how things happen, amazingly. My question is, from each of you actually, can you dare to predict a little bit how this law will affect our life in the greater picture? For example, in the political field, things continue to be like this, deciding just by the way, according to the mood or planning, or how does it affect communities? What will happen, let's say, after Trump, will Israel be able with this law to protect, to say that we are not part of some kind of non-democratic system, let's say, not, or something that resembles more apartheid than a democratic country and so on. How can you predict on that? And also, about the Jewish, there are two things, one ethical Jewish question that somehow, how the Jewish ethics affects us on this, and something, by the way, that related to this two-stage, it's an incredible speech of Amos Oz on Jewishness, claiming something like, it's more like many Jewish things, and it's going to be affecting. So that's very interesting how it's like, what to say that, but how does it affect us? What's your prediction?
Thank you very much. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll take a few questions at the same time. Please, there's someone.
So in a way I can tag onto that. He's asking for descriptive, and I would ask for prescriptive. What do you see as the possibilities for action to bring about the changes? You say eventually we'll get there. So what are the different, whether in your sphere or other spheres, what do you see as ways that people can respond to promote change around this?